Etuk. Welcome to the program. Hello, welcome to the program, Architect. I can't hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I forgot to unmute. Really a pleasure of being back on your program. And you're making very, very awesome strides, especially in the forthcoming program, the investment of Africa. So congratulations. Nice to be with you.
Thank you very much, Architect. Thank you. But the nation is not in a good mood right now across. We're still seeing gory pictures, even on social media. I'm still looking at some, pictures that are not good on AIT online, at Twitter handle. We're still seeing that violence is going on across the country. Can you give me your own perspectives about what you think?
Two things. First, my heart goes to all the young people of this country that have come to rescue us, I would say. Nancy, let me just give you a little thing about the young people that we should know. Number one is that they have put Nigeria on the map for all the right reasons. And if you go into where have we been that have made global impact, first is soccer. Is the young people. Number two, of recent, not even so much recent, you have the Niger Jams that's become a global hit by young people without anybody helping them. And apart from that, you look at fashion, not to talk of Nollywood, that has become the third biggest movie industry in the world. These are things that have been taken up by young people, and they've put Nigeria on the map for all the good reasons. Now, these young people have come to discover that they don't have a future if we continue the way we're going. And they decided they should also come into governance. They've tried a lot of efforts in the past, but for the first time, they are making real concerted effort. And they started, like I said before, it's like having a master plan. Like if you design, a whole estate and say a university, you could choose to start implementing from the academic block, to build. NSAS is just the beginning. The end of it all is what we call, reform Nigeria. So I think that the young people, we need to know where they are coming from and where they are going. And what's happening right now is very unfortunate. But I think that the countdown has begun effectively.
Do you think that these protests that we've seen across the country, at least in the last few days or at least in the last 2 weeks now, was born out of the need to end police brutality, but it has taken another dimension? Because some people have also said that the protests were hijacked, what have you. Do you see it like that?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Your voice, you were asking why I think that.
Yes, I asked earlier if you think that the 2 weeks long protests that we've seen by Nigerian young people have been hijacked, as some schools of thought have also said, that the young people came out to the streets to protest against police brutality, to say end SARS. The federal government has indeed ended SARS, brought up SWAT. The young people still said they don't want it because it's like old wine in a new bottle. And a lot of people, a few people are also saying that this has also been hijacked. What's your perspective on that?
No. Nothing has been hijacked. You see, when the young people, this thing has been planned for a long time. It didn't start today. You need something to get a buy-in. You need to start where people could relate to. You need to be able to say the way to eat an elephant is to take one bite at a time. And it so happened that they found a very wise entry point. You see, the older people in government need to please go back and study the situation. They'll be shocked to know the level of thinking, planning, coordinating, preempting that has been undertaken by the young people long before today. This didn't start today. They had looked for ways to get into the system and make a change, and they just needed that entry point. And the SARS thing caught fire and it gave them the entry. No reasonable person will look at something as coordinated as this and think that it was just about NSAS. No, 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 no. It started somewhere. If our government is wise, they should have people who are strategic thinkers. They should have people who are able to see the future. You know, they should have visionaries who are able to tell, let me tell you what's going on. You know, they knew this was going to happen. The first thing is that they come to the street, they make sure that they don't give you reason whatsoever. Do you know that that was a strategy to buy the mind of the international community? It was also the strategy to buy the minds of good, rational thinking Nigerians. And they did. So they came so organized. When they finish, you know, their protest, they will pack the litter. They don't ask anybody for money. It was, how do you ever think that such a coordinated event is just about NSAS? You should have seen beyond. This is government. And government has to have one room that is future. That room is labeled future. That room is able to see tomorrow, is able to see next year, is able to read. That room should have seen COVID before it came. That is the most sensitive room of government, so that you preempt as government, you don't react. So for government to think.
Okay, that brings me to the question of the reaction of government so far. It ended with NSAS. Federal government dissolved NSAS, have started SWAT. Yesterday we held a town hall here on AIT, which I co-anchored with my colleague, and we had a former SAS commander. He did tell us that training for the SWAT team has started. In fact, the training now, they're getting officers like 7 years experience. Unlike, it was even yesterday I knew that if you're just 2 years in the police, you can enter SAS without much training, because he gave us that information yesterday. So with all of this, the young people are seemingly not satisfied. How do you think that the government should handle this? Since a lot of people have said the government hasn't handled it well. In fact, the Senate has asked the president to address the nation. So how do you think that government should handle it moving forward?
I'll tell you this. The very first thing is government to acknowledge their limitation. You know, I used to be into printing. I owned a printing setup. And I thought I knew so much about printing, and something came up somewhere along the line, and my son said something. I started to lecture him. I said, no. In color separation, this has to do the magenta, the cyan, this and that. And he was just patiently listening to me. And when I finished ranting and raving, he just simply said, Daddy, sorry, that technology has been overtaken. There's something new that allows this and this to go simultaneously. I told him, give me a minute. I Googled it, and he was right. I was wrong. Who is he? My little boy, you know, that's supposed to know nothing. Who am I? A man who is so much into printing and was hailed and everything. What am I trying to say? The world has moved on. Government needs to have a lot more young people telling them what is going on, because a lot of government reaction is old school. You know, all this coming to, I'll block your account here. These guys have alternate funding structure so many steps ahead of you. Okay, well, I'm going to stop you here. I'll block you from here. Before they even knew, they had preempted you, so they have started creating networks abroad where you have no access to, where you have no, look, I send money to my son, I send money to my family. How are you going to stop that family? The network they have is good in funding. The network they have is good in dissemination of information. These guys are steps ahead. What government needs to do is eat the humble pie, cool down, and ask these young people, how do we do it? Step two, they have been so much into where are your leaders? Where are your leaders? These people know government like the back of their palms. What does that mean? The moment you say, this is my leader, that is my leader, that's my leader, you get them into the hall, you either intimidate them or you induce them one way or the other, like they do to labor. You take the wind off their sail and it falls. And they say, look, we are nameless, we are faceless. Talk to us, we are listening, we are watching. You understand me? So that what government needs to do is, you have heard their demands, the spoken and the unspoken. You should be able to know the next step that they are going for. Electoral reforms. You don't need to be told that they are going there. You don't need to be told what the end game is at the end. They want to have a government that makes sense, that works from 2023. What is happening now is not, oh, they want to topple government. No, no young person wants to topple government. No, that's to bring anarchy and bring confusion. No, they are not interested in Mr. President's seat. They are not. I'm telling you this authoritatively. What they want is to work towards a system that will give them a country that they can manage and it will work well for them. That's all. So what does government need to do? Number one, they said NSAS. Let me tell you about NSAS. And you know, I was the pioneer national chairman of Young Democratic Party. I'm effectively the father of youth participation in politics. Okay, and the YPP now is like the grandchild of YDP, where I'm like the grandfather. Okay, what do I mean by that? These people, they talk to me. They talk to me. They talk to me. They are not. You can't bring one out as their leader. There's no leader. Even me, I'm not. If you talk to me, you're wasting your time because they don't listen. They are watching. They are watching. So I'll tell you about NSAS. You stop today, you've ended SARS. Tomorrow, you've started SWOT. I mean, just think about it as a reasonable person. What's the meaning of that? It doesn't mean anything. How? But if you have come to say, gentlemen, we've disbanded SARS, in the interim, to make sure that there is no vacuum left for us to, fight crime and criminology, there's this special unit, SWOT, that has been there, which we are activating, but we are still going to need to create that specialized unit. That's going to take us like 30 days to put together, like another 2 weeks or 3 months to do recruitment. Tell them timelines that they can get together and say, yeah, that makes sense. Do you understand me? That's what we're going to do. But they say, we've ended SARS today. We've created the, what do they call it, SWOT tomorrow. And you think they should clap for you. They just look there and say, these old men just can't help themselves.
Architect Nyaitu, let's just hold on a bit because there is, of course, what we're seeing right now is about socioeconomy. At least from my own study, there's a socioeconomic impact of it. Young people, if you take a look at the demography of Nigeria, young people make up more than 70%. In fact, I was told a few weeks ago by the acting chairman of the National Population Commission that 47% of Nigeria's population is under 15 years old. So between, let's say, 0 and 35, we have the bracket of about 70%. So when I did my mathematics, what I came to is that for those in power, for those in authority right now, if you take a look at the demography, they are not up to 10%. So young people make up more than 70% of the population. What we are driving to is the economics of this. LCCI just came out to say that 700 billion naira has been lost in the last 12 days. I can tell you that investors are monitoring what is happening right now in Nigeria because investors are watching even what the local and international media is saying. Our naira, on one hand, is also being somehow affected right now. So how would you picture all of this? Because young people are on the street, they're saying, we're tired of the way the country is working. You see, some of them do not have jobs. Some that have also that are protesting have good jobs. Their offices left them to go and protest. So what does this say?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good. Can I give you good news? God has blessed me to have a lot of external relationships, contacts, communications, alliances. And do you know what they're saying? They say, architect, we are watching keenly what is going on in your country. And we are finding it very exciting, and we pray it works well because they've been able to see what's going on. There is a good governance revolution, and I use that word revolution in a positive sense. They say these people are, the way they organized, they are looking for a Nigeria that is organized. And for the demographics, that's the young people that form over 70%, which are the effective workforce. If we take that and have a governance structure that is organized, that is focused, that is stable, then Nigeria will become the next big thing in terms of investment destination. These people are praying that the young people should succeed in sanitize. For them, it is to sanitize Nigeria. Okay? So the investors that are going out are starting to call back their partners, because all of a sudden, unlike in Nigeria where we are reactionary, these people, they forecast, they project, they look at things. They see the young people succeeding in dismantling the present, governance structure that is not productive, that is not driven by best practices, so that the moment that these people are eased out, these people that are investors are starting to polish up their contacts in Nigeria to come back to Nigeria. Nigeria is going to be the next big thing. That is why, if you notice, the young people are silently being supported by the organized private sector, who have been crying and mourning and looking for a way to change the system. And they know that the beneficiaries of the system cannot change the system, because that would be personal suicide.
Okay.
So, in terms of, yes.
Okay, architect, you've actually told governments what to do. At least you've proffered some solutions that governments shouldn't come up with a knee-jerk reaction all the time. What are you going to be telling the young people of Nigeria right now? Because a lot of young people are scorned. For me personally, I couldn't sleep last night. If I take off my glasses, you see my eyes are not too good. I couldn't sleep last night because the news, you're getting news upon news, the protests we're seeing, and not just even about Lekki killings, let me put it that way, or the killings we've seen. I try to analyze it that killings have also been happening in the country, not just even, as it were, in Lagos or in other parts of southern Nigeria, but also in the north. And it seems that nothing is being said about our insecurity, so to speak. All those things I had to put into perspective earlier this morning. Like I said, I couldn't sleep. So what do you tell young Nigerians right now? Should they be calm? How strategic should they be, even if they have cogent reasons to be on the street?
I can't hear you, I can't see you, I can't, none.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now,
Okay, I was actually asking earlier that what would be your advice to young people right now? A lot of minds are scorned, people have lost their loved ones. And just also to put in perspective, killings have also been happening, not just even in Lagos, in other parts of the country. If you take a look at the NSAS protest, some people also protested for SARS, that SARS helped them in their states. So how do you juggle both agitations? And what's your advice for young people?
Okay, two things. Number one, they believe that phone lines are largely compromised. So my WhatsApp, talking about not sleeping all night, I'm sure you can see my puffy eyes and everything. My WhatsApp is a mess. Two messages to all of them, the same thing. I said, number one, transition. What's transition? Heart to head. Heart is emotion, heart is sentiment, heart is all those things, adrenaline, those are heart. It must transit from heart to head. Head means eyes on the ball. You know where you're going. Your mates have already paid the price. Your goal is good governance. Don't react. Don't get carried by crying and getting furious and doing things that you ought not to do. You end up using your hand to dismantle. Everybody is hailing you that you guys are so, even in the face of provocation, you had the Nigerian flags wrapped up around your head, your chest, your waist, you bought them the heart of Nigerians. So now it's eyes on the ball. What is the ball? You are looking for a reformed Nigeria. As a result, don't be part of any act of violence. Don't be part of antagonizing any government system. Don't go, looting, and any miscreants that come your way, get them out. Remain that focused group you have been. What you are asking for is legitimate, What you're asking for is what we've been praying for. Less than 10%, less than 5%, less than 1% of the people called politicians have held us to ransom. So eyes on the ball, eyes on the ball. Number two, as you work with the youth, make it a team. Have the vitality, the vigor of the young people, mix it with the wisdom and experience of the older people. Because like the Bible says, there's a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. So I'm also calling on them to have discussions with their parents, with with their elders, with their big friends, and tapping the experience that we've had, making good benefit of hindsight, what they experienced. A man that fought in the Biafran war will tell you certain stories of war that will let you know that war path is not the thing you should even as much as contemplate. He's going to tell you that from experience. A man who is a business person will give you his experiences on building business, the challenges. He's going to encourage you because they're going to have times of depression, moments that you are not too happy. He's going to encourage you. I went through this stage. Most of them call me and say, sir, what do we do? What do we do? I said, look. Transit from heart to head. Transit from heart to head. Don't be emotional. Yes, but we are sad. I say, yes, you are sad, but there's work to do. So what we are telling them, the youth right now, is eyes on the ball. The ball is a country that works.
Okay, you talked about politicians earlier, and the Speaker of the House have also been speaking, even the Senate to have asked for calm. But there was something interesting the House Speaker also said yesterday. He did say that the 2021 budget, he will not sign off on it without the compensation for victims of the police brutality. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, what bothers me is that government really don't understand what is going on. Government is still on old school drive. Government is still thinking, there are these methods that they've been using, which we know, they know. Divide and rule, intimidation, bring thought, dismantle, impose imposition, all those things. Oh, these guys know. Government should jettison all that completely.
So are you saying that what the House Speaker said that victims? Are you saying that what the House Speaker said in terms of compensation for victims of police brutality doesn't hold water? Because some of the demands too is that those people that have been killed, that have been maimed, that have been injured, families have lost loved ones, should also be compensated, be apologized to. There seems to be that kind of reconciliation. Of course, money will not bring back a life.
I wish I could draft a speech for Mr. President. Mr. President alone can single-handedly, with one speech, bring back our country to a line that works. The Bible says a soft answer turns away wrath. People are telling the president, you are a general, don't appear weak. There is a book I have not read, but I've quoted the title more than any other book I have read, and that is She Stoops to Conquer. One of the qualities of a good leader is perceived weakness. Let me tell you something. One of the strongest leaders that we had in history has been IBB. But have you noticed that he always had a twisted smile? He always looked like a lamb. He always looked so gentle, so harmless.
Architect, that's according to your own opinion. Some people may say it differently.
What will solve the problem is for Mr. President to come in and feel the pains of the people, and immediately he cannot be told we got to compensate these people. Apart from the panel, while the panel is going on, everybody, I want anywhere there's been burning of cars and all those things, we need to. These young people mean well. They may not have the wisdom, but I know they mean well. So blah blah blah. You seemingly patronize the young people and set things in order. 1, 2, 3, 4 things. And then you don't have to wait for the speaker to say compensate the people. You don't have to wait for the Senate to say address the young people. Mr. President should act. This is the time for him to be a president.
Let's talk about the police that is in the center of all of this as the end SARS, end police brutality. How do you think that reforming the police should go on, especially because when you even take a look at these reforms, holistically speaking, there's an economic undertone, the business undertone of it. It needs money. You know, we're talking about training that will involve money. I was taking a look at the police budget for this year, 447 billion naira from 403 billion naira last year. We've seen a gradual increase for the police budget, at least in the last six years. But you're talking about a police force that do not have, their salaries are not, you know, are not encouraging. So are you saying that if a policeman sees an avenue to be corrupt, that policeman will not be corrupt? And remember, there was a report some time ago, I think about 3-4 years ago, it came out 2 times in succession from the National Bureau of Statistics to say that the Nigerian police force is the most corrupt body in Nigeria. So how do you put all of that into perspective? And let me also add before you respond, the Police Trust Fund was established last year and signed into law by Mr. President, I think in September 2019, that the police will be funded through different means. How do you put all of this together?
Let me tell you something. 2 things you must understand when they say police reforms. And 2 people. You know, we play the ostrich in Nigeria a lot. Number 1 is that the police was set up, the police force then was set up to protect the interests of the imperialists. We know this. History tells you. And that mentality has come up till today. That is why the police mentality is to protect the class, to protect the boss, not the people. The people are enemies of the boss against whom the police must protect. You've got to understand that, so that they are happy to carry the bag of their bosses. They are happy to open the door. They are happy to serve the bosses. And when you come, is that what do you want? Who are you? Hey, stop there. Why are you coming to have my boss? Why? The police has never been set up to protect it. When they say the police is your friend, what a slogan, amazing slogan. For you to reform the police is for you to go right down to the root. And how are you going to reform the mentality of these people is for you to find a way of bringing in, opening a new door. It's just like in the army. There was a time that to be a graduate was something that it was against your interest for you to be a graduate in the army, okay? Because, you know, these are people, but gradually, today, to be a graduate in the army is an accepted, you know, is an in thing. The same way, you've got to bring a substantial number of people from outside to be able to give a new impetus to the police force, number 1. Number 2, the funding of the police has to be completely decentralized from the federal structure, because the federal structure does not have enough money for them to take care of the police. That's why in the village they say that the food that one man cooks, the whole village can finish. But the food that the whole village cooks, the one man cannot finish. What is needed to reform the police? Their mentality. Look at where they live. Look at where they work. Look at their operational dynamics. Just in Uyo here, last week, somebody broke into our office and stole some laptops. The villagers caught the people and took them to the police station. And when we went to retrieve the police station, they said we should bring 10,000 or thereabout. I'm saying this on air, so I'm saying with every sense of responsibility, for transport to go and look for the people to bring. Okay. And then we should now pay another 5,000 for entries. Today. That is the police. The police have been funding themselves. So when you say they should stop collecting money, how are they going to operate? Okay. Which of the police stations or which of the police setups has operational vehicle that works? Who fuels them?
Okay, I think we'll leave it at that, Architect, because there are so many things to talk about. In fact, when I begin to dissect the socio-economic impact of this, and that's what I've been discussing on the show for a very, very long time. But I want to say many thanks for joining us on the program today.
Lovely, and congratulations for your program. I will definitely be there virtually.
Thank you very much. All right, that's the much we can take with architect Nya Ituk. We've been looking at the socio-economic impact of the hashtag EndSARS protest. It's another Wednesday. In the midst of all of this, so many other things are also happening. The Survival Fund has been launched by the federal government. The Central Bank of Nigeria is also doing its bit in terms of initiatives to boost the Nigerian economy. So it's a CBN weekly segment today. Let's quickly bring you that bit. That's the much you will see me today. I will see you again tomorrow, God willing. Be safe, everyone. And my heart goes out to everyone that we have lost, not just even at Lekki in Lagos, but young people that we've been losing to police brutality. And I'm calling for caution, and I'm saying at this point that the government shouldn't allow this go on again. Whatever the government should do, whatever arm of government should come in and make sure that this is nipped in the bud before it escalates. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye now.